So, good evening, friends, and once again, we are here with Mr. Suresh Lulla for the third episode of the Quality Fables. And in the first episode, we talked about how Mr. Lulla came in touch with Mr. Juran and his association and Mr. Juran's influence on Mr. Lulla on quality. And in the second one, we spoke to him about his association with Mahatma Gandhi and how Gandhiji's customer first approach was very dear to his heart. He has so many facets for me to talk about, and I think today I'll talk to him. How did an IIT engineer, why and how you kind of took on quality as your major, I would say, area of work in life? How did that happen? That's not, I think, is the trajectory of the majority of the engineers or the IITians. So how did it happen? Just tell us briefly before we get on to the topic of the day.
Should I just say an unseen hand led me? For example, when I graduated from IIT Bombay, in those days, the RBI would give you some $20 per day, and I had to reach Detroit at the lowest fare. So my travel agent said, "Are you willing to change carriers?" I said, "I'll do anything for a good price." So my journey to Detroit was from Bombay to Karachi, Karachi to Beirut, Beirut to London, London to Paris, Paris to Montreal, Montreal to New York, and then finally Detroit. Long journey.
Wow.
Guess how much I paid? 3,000 rupees.
Wow.
This was 1967. Now, I obviously landed up at the last minute on my campus. And the only courses that were available were very advanced. So I took reliability engineering. In so doing, I loved to romance with the subject, quality and reliability. That's how I came across Dr. Duran and the handbook, etc. It got into my DNA. Back in India, I joined management consulting firm. They couldn't understand what I spoke because I spoke reliability. And our client that was assigned to me, Kirloskar Cummins, there the chief executive was also of a similar bent of mind, R.V. Ramchandran. 7 years I consulted on reliability of diesel engines, growing the dealership network. And Ramchandran would go to Indiana every 3 months, which was a big thing in those days. And one day he told me, "You better quit your job." And he went to Duran Institute and represented me without my knowledge. and came back with a contract. This is what you've got to do. So if you're asking me, how did I get in? It's someone else saw in me that I had internalized reliability.
I think it's a fantastic, story, and that's how so many times things happen in life.
Yes, it's ordained. So that's the journey, and that's how I met Dr. Duran, and the rest you know.
Wonderful. So we come to today's talk on what you have labeled as sweating the training.
Yes. So you'd like me to start?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Vijay Agarwal. You always give me an interesting introduction. I appreciate that. It takes a knack to do it. Dr. Agarwal needs no introduction to this audience, to this healthcare audience. I would only add that he's a Kimpro Platinum Standard of 2019 for being a statesman in the space of quality in healthcare. Commendable. I have observed Dr. Agarwal from a softer side. He's an amazing listener, a sterling quality for a good leader. So I would like you to think of any leader in the world. Which is the one attribute that is common? Be it from Japan to the USA. Good listening skills. Now, greetings to all the participants. As you know, we are on our third quality fable, sweating the training. We call it quality fables, and you've heard this before. It's not about animals and fiction, but it's about real people and real experience. I just found the word fables because I do tend to add a little bit here and there to make it interesting. But these are real stories from my experience in the space of quality. The quality fable, sweating the training, demonstrates that leaders must be extraordinary trainers and coaches. What are the lessons I learned from Dr. Duran in pursuit of excellence? What are the attributes of a leader? So he naturally said, trainer, coach, counselor, facilitator, and recognizer. Trainer trains you for today's responsibilities. One to many. A coach improves your competency one-on-one, giving you feedback. Sachin Tendulkar had a coach. Saurabh Ganguly had a coach. One-on-one. A counselor is also one-on-one, but on behavior. So what's a facilitator? A leader as a facilitator is a catalyst who creates a situation, makes it happen, and then becomes invisible. That's another quality of Dr. Vijay Agarwal. He's a facilitator, recognizer. Recognizer, I don't mean giving awards and certificates, etc. What I mean is giving positive feedback. Now, feedback typically we give is negative. How do you give positive feedback and create a recognition out of it? Positive feedback in the presence of the peers of the person for a specific reason that becomes a best practice for the others to follow. It takes a lot of practice to learn how to give positive feedback. So we go to sweating the training. 30 years back. At that time, business machines for photocopying were causing a global revolution in the USA, in Japan, in Germany. Fax machines were replacing telex machines. In India, a multinational business located in North India, in Delhi to be more precise, was a preferred employer of the IITs and the IIMs. Candidates considered this organization to be a learning temple. The chairman of this company was the primary investor. The company was financially sound. So why was the chairman sweating in his chamber, in his car, and home? This was biting cold in Delhi. Delhi winter. As it turned out, the chairman had received a call from the European head office. Attend a top management training. The message was from Switzerland. So I told him, that's nice. This chairman was only 35 years old. A PhD from a family business. His response was, that's not nice. Why, sir? So I've had a debriefing session, he said. I'm asked to absorb the content from same topic, customer focus. We would like you to replicate the training for your senior managers. So you're essentially going through a trainer. In turn, we would like your senior managers to replicate the training for middle managers. And you are required to coach each of these senior managers. In preparation, get familiar with all this course material. Wow. Now I understood the predicament. It's been a long time since he took training, but he was sweating it out. A recent PhD. What are the lessons we learn? Training starts at the top. It's the most economical way of training company-wide. Leaders must be extraordinary trainers and coaches. A cascading model for training is the most effective. Debriefing is the key step for effective training. The training process starts with debriefing and ends at coaching the next level. In a cascading model, the pre and post training effort is at least tenfold more than the actual training mandates. Got it? The key concepts included in the training get internalized and therefore become easily actionable. Training without action is easily forgotten. Training with action is remembered. If you don't act within 2 weeks, 20% of the training has evaporated. If you don't act in a month, 50% is evaporated. And thereafter, you have to go back to your training. So, Dr. Agarwal, can training be a cost of poor quality? Over to you.
I think the phenomenal lesson from your fable, phenomenal. First of all, what you talked about the role of a coach, like you said, Sachin Tendulkar had a coach. And in fact, I mean, you go to anybody, Federer had a coach, and Sania Mirza will have a coach. So the people whom we consider at the top of their systems, they all have a coach. But somehow that is something totally absent in the healthcare system. We don't hear that Dr. Devi Shetty has a coach or Dr. Naresh Trehan has a coach. So in fact, I read very nice article from Atul Gawande. He was one person who highlighted, just like what you said, about the need for a coach. In fact, I pulled out that small piece while you were talking, and what he wrote was that I have been a surgeon for 8 years. For the past couple of them, my performance in the operating room has reached a plateau. I would like to think it is a good thing. I have arrived at my professional peak, but mainly it seems as if I have just stopped getting better. So in fact, Atul Gawande did call one of his professors and earlier very good surgeon to just watch him, and thought that this guy will come and appreciate him and all that. And So that's I think, a story which I can tell our viewers to go to the uh, to Google, YouTube, and listen to Atul Gawande as the need for a coach that even the best surgeons probably can benefit from this system of coaching. It's unfortunately just non-existent in the healthcare. However, the other part that you talked about, the training, is again so very important that especially the leaders must understand the role of, you know, creating, I would say, it is a very important part of creating a distributed leadership. You just cannot try to do everything. So therefore, in fact, I like this saying of one Mr. Edith Wharton. He said that there are two ways of spreading light: either be the candle or the mirror that reflects it. So, as a leader, if I have to create more mirrors, you need to sweat it out. You need to kind of grasp and then make sure that the people with whom you are working are all brought up to the same speed. So, whether it is mentoring or training, coaching, I think this is a very, very important lesson that you have given through this fable, that training, and you have also given some statistics that how the training can evaporate in case you are not internalizing it. So uh, it's an extremely important thing that if we are wanting to develop an organization, then I think the distributed leadership is what is very important. And for distributed leadership, it's the issue of getting the training, coaching, mentoring all in place and empowering people at different levels. And there is no better way of empowerment than to be trained. And then you can get on to become a coach and a mentor. I think that there is a huge scope, I would say, of learning. I would say that the training part is something that is uh, slowly being real. It's being realized, the importance of the training. But I think the coach part is totally non-existent. Of course, in the non-medical side, etc., yes, people can look up to you and all that, but they're also it's not as robust as it should be. I don't know whether you would like to have any comments on what I have said. You have to unmute yourself, Saya.
Dr. Agarwal, thank you for your interpretation. Very nice. I would like to ask a question. Should training be the subject of a strategic goal? Or should training be the means to achieve a strategic goal? Let me elaborate. Most organizations set strategic goals for training in terms of how many man-hours of training per employee. Now, all this is passed on to the HR department. So the HR department creates a nice calendar and needs to have enrollments in each of the training programs to meet their KRA. So it's Friday today. And for the course to start on Monday, I have only 5 registrations. I need at least 11 to conduct the course. What do? I phone up my friends in the organization. Yeah, please send someone for this batch or else it'll get cancelled, etc. Who do they send? The ideal person in the department. Not the person that needs the training, but the ideal person. So whom are you training? If you are training the ideal person, that's a cost of poor quality. It's a wasteful cost. Training should be imparted to meet a goal. To meet a goal, I need so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so to work on it. They need specific training, coaching, so that there's training come action. It works. Now, two terms that are often used in excellence and quality management: education and training. I asked Dr. Duran, what is the difference? He said, education for tomorrow's responsibilities. If you're a student in a college, you're being educated for tomorrow. If you're in an organization, you're being educated for changes in the environment, say climate change. That's education. Training is when I train you to improve the efficiency of the work you're doing, efficiency and effectiveness. It's very specific. That helped. He then went on to tell me the only asset in an organization that appreciates in value is the human asset. All others depreciate. So why do we treat humans as a cost? Why does it not appear in the balance sheet as an asset? Your equipment depreciates, but you show it as an asset. Equipment depreciation should be a cost. He would always throw these kind of stimulus in a discussion. I'll close with one. Is Hindustan Unilever. A chairman is appointed for 5 years, no renewal. In those 5 years, the chairman has to find a successor and groom the successor. That's in the latter 2 years. The quantum of coaching that goes on. The successors, 3 may be identified, but 1 will get the job. But he's coaching 3. Think of it. It's the absolute top that understands roles and responsibilities, mind of a manager, soul of a leader. Thank you.
I think what you have said is absolutely true, because we also feel that training is at the bottom of the pyramid of the mentoring and coaching. there is no point of mentoring and coaching a person who has not had adequate training. So actually, as you said, there is a kind of a difference between education and training, but training, even if it is for today's needs, that is very, very essential. And to some extent, I don't think that, all right, anybody who comes and is at least ready to get trained uh, is better than you not getting people to be trained. And sometimes it may change their career, like what happened in your instance, that a person comes by mistake in a class or by force and he gets interested in that particular thing and gets trained. So I understand that it may be a waste of a trainer if that person's that training thing got waste. But I'm saying that training is an extremely essential component before a person is given mentoring and coaching and empowered to take more responsible positions. And I feel that your fable today, I think, will sensitize all of us to think of these aspects and extremely important aspects of developing your human resource, which you said very aptly, they are the real assets. They are the assets. So, I mean, leave aside the financial people's way of putting it where they feel like, but I think that everybody understands the value of a good worker, a good executive, good manager, a good leader. So I think, friends, I'm sure that this fable today has served the purpose of sensitizing us to the need of training. And I would say the fable was about the top leader sweating himself out in getting trained so that he can pass on and make the other people. He had to be the candle, and then he had to make other people the mirrors. So I think, thank you very much, Mr. Lulla, for this very beautiful fable. You have to unmute, sir.
I said thank you, and next month we will do customer first.
Thank you so much, sir. And do I ask if anybody has any question or something? We will be, I think, happy to take. Anybody can raise a hand, and we can allow you to talk. Is Anjali Rawat wants to talk? Can- All right. Anjali, if you are interested in talking.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. It was really a wonderful session, and I also agree with it. Like the training, the trainee has to be like very selected very carefully so that we can utilize the manpower. And you said that asset thing is very. I agree with those points. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Anjali. Thank you. And we look forward for your feedback. Then I think Namit Soni wants to talk. Go ahead. Unmute yourself and you can.
Sir, good evening, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Suresh sir, Lulla sir, and Dr. Vijay. I just wanted to ask one small question that does the training group, like the number of people that we look up in a training, how does that impact the kind of training we want to take? So should we look at smaller groups or larger groups, or if you can share some light on that?
Yeah. Suresh, bye. Go ahead.
Dr. Agarwal, why don't you respond to that?
Okay, so I'll say that, look, it will depend upon the subject, it will depend upon many factors. There cannot be an answer to this question in yes and no, and say that, of course, you see, if there is a smaller group, it's always likely to be much more effective for the person who is getting trained. But if there is a very expensive trainer and you want to create more, sometimes you have to get a larger group, and then as Mr. Lulla talked about, you have to create a system by which this training has to be continued. It's otherwise it's just like seeing a movie, and after I think 2-3 months you will probably not even remember what exactly what the things happened in that movie. After some time you will even forget probably the side characters of that movie, and then you may even forget who the heroine was. So the issue is this, that any training program should be very structured, and you have to see that whether people are appropriately chosen to be given that training. And therefore, the number of people attending a particular program, I don't think is as important as the competence both of the trainer as well as the keenness of the trainees to be there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I was just looking at from a healthcare perspective. So yeah, thank you. I mean, you answered my queries. Thank you.
So Liti Varghese, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. That was a great talk. Particularly, I like the example of candle and mirror. Sir, I would like to add a point that each organization, if in the beginning of every year, training and analysis is to be conducted department-wise, then it will be much easier for the manager to manage whatever training is needed and choosing the right candidate for each training.
Yeah,
what is your opinion on that, sir?
You are absolutely right, Liti. That and I think it's very important, first of all, for the people themselves to get sensitized to the need of training.
Yeah.
It's also important for their managers to find out as to what kind of training is appropriate for the persons who are working in my this thing. So it's like everything is going to go hand in hand. But I think if we can instill a fire in the bellies of people to start loving training,
yes, sir.
I think that is what will make a huge difference. And I have seen this, that you see people, two people coming from the same institution, passed out the same course, and one goes on to become a CEO, and the other person may be languishing at the level of a DMS or something.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes he keeps cursing that it's because of his bad luck, it's because of his corrections, and so on, so on and so forth. But I feel it's also the appetite to not only get trained, but also then to take on to the next steps of coaching, mentoring, and to excelling in implementation of that training.
Yes.
May I add something?
Sure, sir.
How did Dr. Duran measure our performance? We were 12 reps in the world, 2 from Asia, 1 in Singapore and 1 in Bombay. He would measure, one was teaching quality improvement at a time when when ISO was the buzzword, quality control. So trying to teach improvement. One, you had to show the impact on the profit and loss. And 2, he would measure how soon can you make yourself redundant in that organization. That's a very challenging thought. Don't become a parasite. Impart such good training, coaching, counseling, facilitation that you become redundant. Now, think about it. We are afraid to become redundant, so we always hold back.
Very well.
Give with an open heart, only then you will rise. Don't carry the burden.
I would say redundant is even much more step. Even I think the anxiety of you become so insecure in
Insecure, yes.
preparing someone next to you, and without realizing that that insecurity is what is dragging you back. You see, more secure you will be in training people. That's what will push you up the ladder. And you are under a mistaken kind of a thing that because of that insecurity or because of your trying to control over your own expertise and not passing it on as if you're doing a great thing. So we conclude, last of all, there was a comment by Renu Chaudhary who said that in this current pandemic time, the training has, because of this virtual thing, has become all the more difficult. I would say the jury will probably still be for that, because in today's date, yes, certain amounts of training, there are challenges. But if I look at, I'll tell you the amount of information which is today available on YouTube and something and TED Talks. I think it's an important thing for you to, I mean, I have personally, for example, I have had zero interest into gardening, but, I was into a place where I could do something, and it was YouTube, which is trying to tell me also what to do and how to make this plant flower more, what are the problems, how do I do this gardening, or even to cook food. And so I'm saying today the kind of the information and the training material that is available, even in this era, especially in the digital world, is huge. And therefore you have the best of the people coming to you and you are able to listen. There was no other way easy that you would have gotten Mr. Suresh Lulla to be with you in one afternoon, sitting with you, chatting with you. Come on, so let's enjoy what the technology is giving us. And yes, you are right, there are certain things which cannot happen because of this situation. So thank you very much, everyone, and we bring this session to the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. Thank you, all the participants. Look forward to
The next one.
9th February. Customer first, always.